Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, whatever part of the world you are. Receive greetings, warm greetings of love and friendship out here from Austin, Texas. Welcome to the Icon IT live information session, right? We committed to you and we keep putting it in front of you. We will come live every week to make sure we give you information on the transformation, on the revolution, on the economic opportunities, career wise, technology wise, that is available in the IT industry today, right? I call it the new goal because it truly is. So we are glad, excited to have you on the line today, watching us and being with us. If you're just joining us, feel free, please share this link, invite your friends, invite your families to come and watch, right? It's usually said people die and perish from lack of knowledge, and a lot of times the lack of knowledge comes from lack of information. A little piece of information you could gather from a program like this could change your life forever, but not only your life, but the lives of your future generation and your progeny, right? So it's important that you don't only watch by yourself, but go ahead and click the link and share. If you're watching us from any of the social media platforms, of course, from YouTube, from Facebook, from LinkedIn, from Twitter, please go ahead and like our page, subscribe to our page. That really makes a difference to us because number one, when we have new content, you'll be the first person as our exclusive supporter to get that content. And number two, you'll be able to get a lot of other bonus material, bonus content, bonus information that will be able to help you as you charge, as you transition into the IT industry and try to build a career in the space. So you're welcome. We're glad to have you. Thank you very much for joining us at this time. And this evening, it's evening here for me, but today we are going to be talking about the everyday life of a Scrum Master, right? That's something that I know a lot of people have been asking themselves. People have been reaching out interested in the programs, but they ask themselves, what is it the Scrum Master does on a day-to-day basis, right? Today we are going to be talking about that. I have a guest who will be joining me in the studio to talk about how that goes. And this person has tons of experience. I'll be bringing this person in a few minutes. But if you're just joining in, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel, like our pages on Facebook and YouTube, share this link. Please share with your friends and family. Invite people to come and watch and get knowledge, information, which is transformative for their lives and the lives of their future progeny. So we're glad to have you. And and also, as we get along with the program, feel free if you have any questions, put it in the chat. All right, we'll be able to respond to that. Our guest is here today. She'll be able to respond to any questions you might have. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to be bringing in the studio our guest. Wonderful. So let's all together welcome Sally TV Achu. Sally, you're welcome. Can you hear me?
I can hear you 10 on 10, Mr. Gustav. Thank you very much for having me tonight. Hello
Fantastic.
from
We are
Charlotte,
glad.
North Carolina.
We are excited to have you on in the show tonight because I know you come with tons of experience, tons of knowledge. You've been down there in the grind. In fact, Sally has extensive experience not only as an agile professional, but she comes from a background of oil and gas. I mean, you don't see too many ladies out there who come from the background of oil and gas, right? And for those who might know a little bit about the industry, boy, you have 1 month working every day of a month, and then you get a month off. So you go offshore to a remote area, there is nothing happening there, and you're stuck for a month working on an oil rig. You eat, you sleep, you work. That's it for 1 month, and then you take a break. So we're glad to have you, Sally. I know you come with so much experience and beautiful stories. Today we have about 35 to 40 minutes with our televiewers, okay? And I want to accomplish one thing. I want them to be able to visualize what it is like on a day-to-day basis for a Scrum Master. The Scrum Master position today, the Scrum Master role today is one of the hottest in the IT industry. Companies are looking for Scrum Masters like no other role is being sought after. Most Scrum Masters I know have upwards of 2 to 3 gigs going on right now. So it's an opportunity which nobody should let go of, right? In the meantime, if you're just joining us, you're welcome. Please feel free to subscribe to our channels. If as we get along with Sally, you have any question, ask that question in the chat on whatever platform you are. And most importantly, too, there will be a link on the screen. You can always click that link, fill in your name, fill in your phone number. You will join our network, and you also be able to have a calendar where you can choose a time and a date to book a one-on-one free, no commitment appointment with me. And I'll call you and give you a lot more information about any other IT program you might be interested in. But today, exclusively, we'll be talking to a professional who comes with over 6 years of experience in the agile space. All right. She works as a senior Scrum Master. She's worked across multiple powerful industries, including the healthcare industry, pharmaceutical, banking and finance industry, and of course, the oil and gas industry. She's transformed all these different businesses, been able to implement agile procedures, be able to bring in the Scrum practices, and help these companies realize significant changes in their business. So we're glad to have you today, Sally. You're very, very welcome. So I'll just take you off the bat. Just give us a little bit about yourself and how did you find yourself from oil and gas into a Scrum Master?
Thank you, Mr. Gustav. My prelude to the answer is the hustle is real.
That's
Right.
good.
So I have been in oil and gas or I had been as an engineer for so many years. And at some point, I had grown in the company to project and product management, as well as business management. So, whilst in that role, that is where you get to partner with other companies, with supplier companies, and things like that. So, we partnered with a supplier company for maintenance. And that was the first time I heard the word Kanban. And this was a shocker. What is this? Why do every 2 weeks we are supposed to be driving over to go inspect what has been done? And I'm
Right.
thinking, this is too much hassle. The
Uh-huh.
oil and gas
I think we might be losing you briefly there, Sally. Can you hear me? Okay. Dear yes. Okay, I think we have Sally back on the line.
I apologize for that. Technology is what technology is. So, like I was saying, my introduction to Agile at all was through Kanban, and this was really in a maintenance facility. And then I got talking with the maintenance manager, and he started talking about agile processes and Lean Six Sigma, and all kinds of fun stuff. So I went ahead and started reading about it, and it was like a light bulb came up in my head, and I was like, why have we not thought about this before today?
Mm-hmm.
Because it makes life so much easier, right? And that was literally how I got in there. And when I went back to my company, I was like, guys, we need to do something different. And we
That's
started a
right.
gentle transformation, and it's just been from one gig to the next after that.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's fantastic. And one of the beautiful things about the story, and you just explaining how you've been able to pivot, is that I've talked to multiple different people. We've had a chance to train multiple people from different backgrounds who've been able to pivot from the healthcare industry, from the oil and gas now through you, from maintenance industry, from construction, from even no formal background into becoming Scrum Masters, right? So
Yeah.
what this really tells me, and I hope it's telling all the televiewers right now, is that it's possible, right? It's
It
possible,
is.
no matter your background, where you're coming from, you can pivot into a beautiful, highly rewarding career as a Scrum Master. So tell me a little bit, Sally. I know there are a lot of these different terms that are being thrown around, right, in the agile space, Scrum Master. What does a Scrum Master really do on a day to day? What, first of all, is a Scrum Master? Let's start from that.
Right. I was going to go back to that question. I'm glad you did.
Correct.
So I'm going to use a little anecdote. That's how I typically answer this question. And if you're coming from any of the rural areas where you were growing chickens in the yard, for a lot of us from Africa, Asia, we have grown up with chickens in, either in the coop or in the yard. You realize when you have a mother hen, her first job is protecting the chicks. That basically is who the Scrum Master is. You are a protector for your team, and you're protecting the team from outside influences that is going to negatively impact their delivery. Because the goal of having a team is not only to build friendships, right? It's not only to have people working together and making money. It's also to be able to deliver to your end customer. So you as a Scrum Master, your job is, one, to motivate that team. Two, to help the team to address and remove any impediments, anything that will block them from achieving their goal. Three, to coach and guide the team to be able to make decisions, to become self-organizing to such an extent that their delivery becomes exceptional. Only then have you succeeded as a Scrum Master. So there's a saying I like to use. I say a good Scrum Master walks themselves out of a job.
Yeah.
When you have gotten the team to that point, you potentially will not have work.
Oh, sorry, we're losing you again. Can you hear me, Sally? We're
Yes, I
losing you
can hear
again.
you.
Okay.
I am not sure what is going on tonight. Sorry about that.
Yeah, go ahead. You were concluding on that.
All right.
Okay.
I was just saying, you as a Scrum Master, basically your role is very team specific,
Correct.
but it also, you become the face of the team in front of the senior management or hierarchy. You speak for your team in front of the
Wonderful.
hierarchy as well. So that's the other aspect that a lot of people tend to neglect, but it's critical
Okay, wonderful. So
to
I
get the
know
goals. Yeah.
for a lot of our televiewers listening, and welcome everybody. Feel free, if you have a question that is on your mind, put it in the chat. We're going to respond to that question. Also, go ahead and subscribe to our channels. Please share this link, invite your friends and family to come and join this conversation, participate, engage. If you have any thoughts, go ahead. Also, you have a link on the screen in the comment section where you can click, fill in your name, your number, your email. You'll join our community online where you'll be getting information on different things happening in the Icon IT community. You'll also be able to book a one-on-one free, no commitment appointment with me, and I'll call you and talk to you more extensively about any program of your interest, right? So coming back, Sally, thank you very much for that. So I know a lot of people ask naturally ask a lot of questions about the Scrum field, right? They say, oh, a Scrum Master is in IT, but a Scrum Master is not too technical. Where does the Scrum Master stand in the IT space? We have people like developers who are the guys coding. We have people like database administrators who are the people managing the databases. We have people like the UI UX developers who develop the front end application, like what you people are able to see us on right now, right? You have people who manage the network administrators. You have people who manage the computers itself, right? The compute system, which are which are the UA administrators and all of that. Where does the Scrum Master stand?
So the Scrum Master role is a very interesting position because it straddles the technical world and the world of humanity.
Wow.
Your role is
Wow.
basically taking a human being and making that human being change their perspective, change their way of operation, change their way of reasoning, and doing all of that within an IT technical space. How does
Okay.
that change impact on that IT work is the second part of that question. Now, that change in perception, that change in ways of working, that change in understanding the needs of the customer changes the way that developer, that database admin, that hardware admin will handle their work. It will no
Mm-hmm.
longer be, I work in my little dark room like we used to think all the IT geeks
Correct.
work in a
Correct.
little dark room and they come out only for burgers and soda.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
changes that. It exposes the work. So the way of working has changed. And what that does is it has taken that geek out of that dark room and his
Mm-hmm.
work out of that dark room and brought it to the light, to the person who is
Wonderful.
going to consume that product at the end.
Mm-hmm.
You have a
Mm-hmm.
chance every step of the way to see what you're building, to see what you
Wonderful.
ask for, to consume at least the basics of your product. The Scrum
Mm-hmm.
Master's job is to make sure that these two worlds align, the IT world and the change world, and it aligns to the benefit of the customer.
Always at the center. The customer is
The
always at
customer
the
is
center.
always
That's
at the
right.
center.
That's
Yes,
right. Thank you for that brilliant explanation. And I think when I think about it, right, so the role of a Scrum Master really just tries to help companies be able to get delivery on commitments to the client in
correct.
chunks and pieces without having to wait for everything to be complete first. Is my understanding correct?
Very correct. It
Wonderful.
is very correct.
Okay,
But I
wonderful.
will caveat there to say that that doesn't mean that the traditional method of doing
Of
things and
course.
starting and finishing is,
Is
is in any way negligible. No,
mhm.
but it is critical that
Okay,
Scrum Masters are in these companies because they are kind of the watchdogs, for lack of
correct.
a better word, of delivery.
Yeah. Okay. That's wonderful. So now we've talked a little bit about, the role of a Scrum Master. Let's talk about some of the different ceremonies and activities that the Scrum Master performs on a day-to-day basis. What are those activities? Can you just explain that in a layman's way where anybody, even watching us right now, who doesn't have no background in Scrum, which I believe is most of our televiewers, will understand and visualize?
For sure. So, one of the key roles of a Scrum Master is a facilitator. So, a facilitator, in this case, you're facilitating both what comes down to your team as work and you're
Mhm,
facilitating what leaves your team back to the customer. And there's many ways of doing this. There's many instances where you do this. And
mhm,
for the instances where you do this within the team, so facilitating that build, what the team is
mhm,
working on, there's different ceremonies. And the critical part of these ceremonies is that you need to inspect and adapt in agile terms. It basically means look at it and make sure that it is meeting requirements. If requirements are changing, then we change our strategy to meet those requirements. That's the basic
absolutely.
understanding of inspect and adapt. The first one of these ceremonies or events or meetings, as we call them locally, is the daily stand up. Basically, it is a very short meeting. Scrum prescribes it be 15 minutes, but every company has its specifics. In And in this meeting, basically, the team is saying, look, this is what I've been working on. Our goal for this week was, case in point, build a car. And I've been working on the engine. I've gone as far as, getting the engine block in place. But I need the valves, for example, from Team X. So I need to talk to Team X. Right. So the daily stand up is a meeting where the team comes together to talk about their progress toward that dream goal, toward that
Mhm,
end point that you had planned in the beginning. And
absolutely.
before you even get to the daily stand up, you have to plan what you have to do, right? Pardon me for taking you a step back. You have to plan what you have to do. And that starts with the sprint planning. It's prescribed to be a long meeting, but I promise you, nobody can sit in a room for 4 hours. So in practice, we split it down to maybe two times 2 hours or 1 times 2 hours, however works for your team. But this meeting is where you sit together and you decide, well, this is what the customer wants us to do. How can we get there? I need for Mr. Gustav to, build me a robot that braids my hair in 1 hour. Mr. Gustav gathers his team together and say, look, the customer is paying some good money. How do we give him
Absolutely.
this product? Yes, she wants the product. She wants the product to launch somewhere in January of 2023. How can we get there? And then they sit in a room together and one person says, well, we maybe use microchips, and another person says, no, maybe we can just use, rings and bearings and whatever thing that they will need for the movement and interaction, right? And they plan how they will achieve that goal. And some brilliant part of the team will say, but look, we can't do all of this in one day. We can't do all of this in 1 month. Why don't we give Miss Sally a little robot that can just at least walk around her room for the first week? So she can see that at least there's something moving around. And the second sprint, we're going to say, well, Miss Sally, we've added a little bit of little something onto that robot. Now we can carry a plate, for example. And so you progressively, iteratively build on that. You plan what part you build first, what part you build next, what part you build after that, up until the point where you've completed that project. Now, the third ceremony relative to that. So I've talked about the planning, which is called the sprint planning. I've talked about the daily stand-up, where it is internal to the team. What am I doing to help my team complete this work? The third aspect of that is the sprint review or the demo. Yay. Miss Sally, we finished the first part of your robot. We would like to show you what we've done so far. Okay, cool. Let's set up a meeting. And during that meeting, you as a team will demonstrate what you've been able to achieve, what you've been able to build. And I will come back to say, well,
so the demo is
the sprint review.
Exactly. So it just gives a chance for the team to be able to show what they've been working on.
Exactly. Okay. And for the customer to give feedback.
To give you feedback.
So it is a closed feedback loop.
Okay.
The critical thing about each of these ceremonies, remember, is that you have to inspect and adapt. So you look at it and make changes if need be. So it's inspecting and adapting.
That's where I'll go. Wonderful.
Correct. The last one of the events or ceremonies for a Scrum Master is the retrospective. And this is very team-centric. This is about the team. This is where you sit together in a room and all gloves are off. You're like, okay, let's talk about this. What did we do great? Yeah, we were awesome. But there's always room for improvement. So how can we improve? And you go into that meeting with an open mind, looking for opportunity for growth. So again, it is a chance to inspect the team's processes, to inspect even the hardware and the software and the architecture of the company. Maybe while you were building the ID software, the lower environments were not working right, so you could not get your stuff tested. Maybe the cloud was not working right. Maybe the servers are all full, so you're thinking of moving to cloud. It is a chance to look at the entire flow and say, where can we fix it? Where can we improve? Where can we grow? So those are the 4 key ceremonies. And of course, this is all embodied in a 2 to 4 week time frame called the sprint.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all of this, so it's like all of this has to be executed within that period of time.
Correct.
So a lot of different activities, therefore, within the Scrum practice is time boxed, if I understand.
Every single activity in the Scrum practice is time boxed. So you are the gatekeeper of you're the timekeeper. You're the gatekeeper of time.
Wonderful. So that's beautiful. I mean, understanding all those different ceremonies and those different things. So just walk me through a typical day for you. How do you start your day? What happens? Just about 2 minutes. Walk me through that day so our televiewers can see it.
A typical day for me would be, first off, a Scrum Master does not have a typical day.
Absolutely.
Your day changes based off of what is happening during the sprint, right? But in summary, your typical day will probably start with a cup of coffee if you're a coffee drinker like myself. And you take an hour, 30 minutes, and you're just looking through the boards and looking through the things you had lined up yesterday. For if you had any questions, if you had sent out any emails, you're looking for responses, or for services that you requested for your team, whatever follow-up you did the day before, you're looking to see if you have responses. Then you're moving on to your boards and you're checking your boards. Okay, my team was working on this aspect and this item and that item. Where do we stand? Do I see any impediments? How long has this been on? So you have to have a very keen eye on the changes or that plays out on your board. Because if you have a ticket that has stayed on the board too long, it begs the question, why is it here? What is holding it down? So that is another aspect of being a Scrum Master that is critical. You have to see and hear what is not shown and what is not said.
Correct.
Then after your meetings, you may have your daily stand-up. You do the normal who has done what to achieve our goal. And typically there's always takeaways from that call, right? The team maybe needs an intervention from another team. A teammate has a laptop that is acting crazy. They've not been able to get with the help desk, or a teammate just is not feeling it that day, right? And just say, Sally, I'm not in a good place. And those are takeaways you have from that meeting. After that call, typical Scrum Masters these days have 2 or 3 teams. So you do those calls back to back. And after that, you go and sit down and you say, okay, I had action items from this call. Where do I start? On other days, you may be called up to attend a hierarchy meeting with the hierarchy, or to support another team that doesn't understand Agile. So you're coaching for part of that day.
Correct.
I get to do that. Like 60% of my day is spent with coaching junior Scrum Masters, coaching teammates, just coaching even senior managers, because they come up with these questions, and it's your role, it's your job, and it should be your pleasure to get them to that point. And
absolutely
right after that, there is also just a general, I call it look around. So I will just go back on the boards in the middle of the day, see what has changed, what is happening. And if I notice something different, for example, if a teammate has blocked a ticket and says we cannot progress with this ticket, that was not mentioned in the beginning of the day. So during the course of his work, he finds out that there's something. And he has not necessarily communicated that to you, and will probably be saying, well, I'll talk about that at a stand-up tomorrow. But you have picked it up because you're doing the walk around, and you can go ahead and address it.
Absolutely.
Right. Then other times as well, half the time I also have a lot of reports to put together. Some managers are not in the mood to go into your tool, be it Rally, Jira, version 1, Adobe, Azure DevOps, to see what is going on. So they'll say, Sally, please, can you give me a 1-pager of where these teams stand? And so you put together those reports for them and so on. And by 5 p.m. is typically you rounding off your day. So that's about it.
That's okay. Wonderful. So from what I gather with you just talking a lot about the different things you do as a Scrum Master, right? It just occurs to me that even though there is we run specific trainings at Icon IT for Scrum Masters, we teach some of the technical nuances and all of that, but a lot of your life skills already acquired comes into play. Your organizational skill, the communication skill, your ability to just think how to solve problems, right? How to anticipate issues and create a way by which those impediments can be eliminated so that you can get to your goal. So when I think about the role of a Scrum Master, sometimes I think about, an ant or an army of ants, right? You hardly ever see ants making a U-turn. They never do that. They just keep going straight forward, right? They meet an impediment, they either go over, they go underneath, or they bore their way through that impediment. Somehow they got to keep going forward, right?
Correct.
So I want to believe, now I understand very clearly, how the transition was for you from oil and gas into Scrum, because it's the same kind of mindset, right? It's just that mindset of, you know what? I'm going to go for it. I'm going to get it. I'm going to find a solution no matter what, right? So thank you for just throwing some light on, on the day-to-day what a Scrum Master role is, what you do at work. And I believe for a lot of our televiewers, if you're just joining us, welcome. Right? We are talking today about a day in the life of a Scrum Master. Because one of the things a lot of people struggle with when it comes to the IT industry, they hear all these terms, they hear all these buzzwords, and they get frightened. It's nothing. Are we together? It's nothing. It's just words that describes specific things within the context of an industry. Are we together? In the agile space, they might call it, impediment. In the oil and gas space, they probably called it maybe blockage or risk or something,
Yeah.
right? In the construction space, they might call it, I don't know, maybe safety hazard.
Mm,
Whatever it is, it just
correct.
means the same thing, right? So the Scrum Master program basically just walks you through getting into this mindset of delivering in little chunks to get to the final destination. Are we together?
Correct.
Wonderful. Thank you for that brilliant expose. So, Sally, tell me, I mean, you certainly always been a high achiever in everything you've done in your life, from school, coming into the oil and gas space. You were able to achieve, receive a lot of awards from the companies you work for. Now you're in the agile space. Promotions have come, increase in pay have come, recognition
Sis,
letters
woo.
from recognition letters and things like that. What are some of those key attributes you would say would define a successful and high achieving Scrum Master?
The first one would be what we call in Pigeon chop fire, and I call
Mhm,
it in English grit, share grit.
mhm,
You will
mhm,
have good days, you will have bad days. You have to have it down. Share
mhm,
grit.
mhm,
The second thing is openness. Be open to learn. Scrum is the most lightweight, the easiest to understand, but to put in practice is the most difficult. And that is because you're working with people. And
yes,
because you're working with people, a key skill for working with people is empathy.
flexibility,
If
right?
this was me, how would I handle this? Empathy. Empathy, I cannot tell you how much empathy is critical. It trumps everything else when you're working with a human, because there is a push in the whole world now to get people to feel like they belong in their companies. With the great resignation, companies are struggling to retain staff.
Mhm,
People have challenges. People don't always bring their whole selves to work, or sometimes they bring too much of themselves to work. Your role as a protector of the team is to have empathy and listen. Listen to the things that are said and the things mostly that are not said.
correct.
I know it sounds like I don't know what the English word for it is, but it sounds a little silly, right? To listen to something that's not being said. But
Mhm,
there's always unspoken messages when you're
mhm,
talking with your team.
absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for that. And we have some questions on the board, Sally. Thank you, Delphine, for participating and sending in the question all the way from LinkedIn. So, Delphine is asking, hello, Miss Sally, how will you explain Scrum to a lame person in 1 minute? That's an elevator pitch. What is Scrum in an elevator?
Scrum in 1 minute. So, Scrum is a way for people to build iteratively. So, you're building progressively or one on top of the other in short periods of time and to
Mhm,
achieve a bigger goal. What it provides, building in those small pieces, is that your customer at every step is involved. So, you're
mhm,
building to the latest specifications of your customer. And so it builds customer satisfaction, it boosts team motivation, it boosts just
engagement. Yeah.
engagement for
All
the
right.
team.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you for that. Thank you, Sally. So, next question from Jackie. Hello, Jackie. Thank you for hopping on. We're glad to have you. Hopefully, along the line, I'll have a chance to have you on the show. Jackie is actually
One
an,
of our
a
students.
graduate from Icon IT. She works as a Scrum Master right now, helping her customer transform from $1 million to $1 billion business.
Yeah.
So, thank you and welcome. So, Jackie is asking, as a Scrum Master, you are sometimes overwhelmed by having too many high priority demands at once. That is true. How do you handle that moment when a lot is expected of you?
Hey, Jackie, it's good to see you. Good to have you back on this call. I am so proud of you, if I don't say that enough. But so back to your question. One of the things I always ask when I am asked to do something is, what's the timeline on this? What is the priority of this? And if I do have conflicting priorities, I'm going to not necessarily set up a meeting. I'm just going to pull the people who ask me these things in a chat, and say, look, I have these items that are priority, which is top priority. Everybody's item is always a priority, but there's just one of you, right? If you could clone yourself, then you will get it done in 5 seconds.
Absolutely.
So get with them and say, look, hey, Gustav, hey, Sally, you both are asking me to do this at this time, but this is all what I have in my queue. So which one takes precedence over the other? Which one is higher priority? And if you do have conflicting higher priorities and everybody's insisting that it's a higher priority, then the next question is, can I get another resource to chip in so we can work on this together to go quicker?
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
It sure does. Thank you. Does that make sense, Jackie? Delphine, please respond in the chat. Let's know you received the responses. And if there's some follow-up questions, feel free. We also have Kelly Chofor. Kelly, welcome. We're glad to have you on the line. Please feel free if you have some questions, put them in the chat, and Sally will be able to respond to that or myself. So Kelly is asking, how do you motivate or encourage quiet team members? By increasing their salary. I'm just kidding.
That
Yeah? Hey, that always motivates
them. What 12 hours? But of course,
wonderful.
Yeah, that's a good one, Mr. Gustav. Hey, Kelly, I will take your question a little bit further back before I dive into it. As a Scrum Master, remember that one of your roles is to create a safe space for your team. Your team has to feel safe to speak up and speak out. And there's various ways of doing that. That's another subject, or we can dive into that later on. But if you have that safe space created for your team, then when you have quiet members on the team and you call them up, you can put them on the spot, and you prefix it by saying, Kelly, I'm going to put you on the spot today. What do you think about this? They may not say much, but as a Scrum Master, you have had a chance to do one-on-one with your teams, right? And you can gauge, if not exactly, but you have an idea of what their strengths and what their weaknesses are. So you're calling them out and you're putting them in position to work on those weaknesses. For example, if you have to take a couple of days off, you'll find the most quiet team member and say, look, I'm so sorry, I need to go for it. I will not be at the daily stand-up tomorrow. Could you help me just walk the board at the stand-up? Give them little tasks that challenges them, but doesn't push them too far out of their comfort zone. That is another way of doing it. A third way that I always do is during retrospective, team building activities are essential. I'm counting my fingers when talking. Team building activities, I cannot stress it enough. It's essential. And it can be anything. It can be a coffee date. It can be a happy hour. It can be anything. There's a wild majority of games out there. If you go on Google, you will lose track of what to use and what not to use. But then you remember you have to tailor it to who your teammates are. So don't just go and pick any game out of the blue and try to, impose it on your team. That's why the one-on-one, the frequent one-on-ones with your teammates is good. So you know where everybody is standing, psychologically, emotionally, and just with their work.
Wonderful.
The last aspect of it is be open. Let your team feel like they can come to you to say, Sally, I've had enough, I'm out, that they can gripe to you. Because we all need that one person that we can gripe to in the company, right? And talk about, this company is not doing this and that company is not doing that. If they feel that they can come to you, then you have a chance to talk to them, to get these little activities that bonds the team going. You have a chance to do a one-on-one. You say, look, I know it's a hard day. I know it's a hard time, but look at what's the bigger picture? You're getting those bills paid. You're planning for your future. You're building wealth. Focus on the bigger picture and let the nitty-gritty fall where it may. So you have a chance to do that when you create that safe space for your team and bond and have these activities and all of that going on. Does that answer your question, Kelly?
It sure does. It sure does. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you. And thank you very much, Sally. I know I promised our televiewers we're going to spend about 35 to 40 minutes. We're probably getting to the top of the hour. If there is still, okay, Delphine has another question. How do you optimize your flow metrics?
So, hey, Delphine, one of the things when I join a team, I use the metrics I see that day as a baseline. And I promise you, I am not focused on metrics. I am focused on processes and doing the right things and getting agile right. When you get your agile method working right for your team, the metrics fix themselves.
Automatically, that's true.
The metrics are the last thing you should worry about as a Scrum Master. Worry more about if the team is doing the right thing, if the team understands why they're doing it. You know, when you were going through your training, you heard of the shuhari, right? Shu means we do it as the Scrum Master says it. We don't understand it, but we just do it. Ha means we're beginning to understand it, right? We're beginning to understand why we do these things. We're beginning to challenge why we do these things. And when you get to the re phase, that's a mature and fully grown team. They understand, they know it, and they can change the processes as they see fit. So the key thing is make sure that the processes are good, they are followed, your team charter is respected, your teammates want to be there, and they want to give in their best. Remember that metrics are just an effect of what you put in.
Correct.
So if you put crap in, your metrics are going to always be crappy. So make sure that the data that goes in from the beginning and the reason why that data is going in is aligned. Then the metrics will fall into place.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Sally. And I see there's a comment, not really a question, from the Nouvelle. I like that one. This IT language is what is scaring some of us having little knowledge in IT. And
Okay.
I love that one, Nouvelle. You cracked me up. And I bet it's a serious concern. And I want to let you know you are not alone.
Yes.
Okay, don't feel alone. Don't feel like you are okay. You are not alone, and it's not unusual. The one thing I will say is this, right? The human capacity to learn
Immeasurable.
is inelastic. It's infinite. A lot of things we don't know because we don't know. You would know when you know. What do I mean by that? What I mean by even those of us sitting today and talking to you about these different IT programs, including Scrum Master. 10 years ago, 12 years ago, we never heard about it in our lives. In fact, we never even knew it existed. I thought that in the IT industry, the people who are in that industry, number one, are the smartest people on earth. Number two, it takes a certain IQ. You have to be this geek to be in the IT industry. And number three, boy, oh boy, you have to work every hour of the day of your life to be successful in the IT industry. You know what, Nouvelle? When I joined the industry, I realized all of these things were over amplified for nothing. The language of IT is like English we are speaking. Most of us learned how to speak English.
Yeah.
The language of IT is like French. Most of us learned how to speak French. The language of IT is like my friends and classmates when we were in high school and university. Some of them were going to India, some were going to Germany. They had to take German classes to learn how to speak German. A few months after, they were experts in German. In Russian, for those who are going to Russia, in Ukraine, right? So what I'm trying to tell you is don't get scared.
Absolutely.
These terms mean things that you already understand. I gave you an example of impediment. You hear the term impediment. That is the appropriate term to use in the agile space, in the IT industry when you're working as an agile professional like Ms. Sally and myself, right? But impediment basically means an encumbrance. It means a blockage. It means something that is getting in the way of progress.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So even though you might hear the term, what is it I was talking about? You might hear the term, what is that term again? Impediment, right? But that is really what it means. It doesn't mean anything different. Now, when I break it down and use a synonym of that term, it tells you that I already know the term. You're not learning anything new, right? So I want to encourage you and everybody listening to this. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. I have always been, I'm not the smartest guy in the house, right? I've always been one of those people. If there are 50 people going through, number 44, 42, you'll hear my name, right? And I'll sneak through the door and I'll make it through, right? The one thing I learned in this, and Miss Sally highlighted that during one of her presentations, is something we call, for those who speak pidgin, it's called chop fire. For those who don't understand what that is, it means grit, it means determination, it means hunger, right? Let me tell you one thing I learned in this industry in my 11 years in the industry, Rebel. 75% of people working in the IT industry have no background with computers. They've never been to any computer class. They don't have no degree in computer science. They come from law. I know pastors I work with. I know ministers I work with. I know social workers who've moved into the IT space. I know nurses like myself. I know engineers. Sally even came from an engineering. Only 25% of people in the IT industry come from a science and engineering background with computer involved. The majority of people just learn. The reason why is because it's a skill like any other skill. You want to be a nurse, you go to nursing school. You want to learn how to braid hair, you go learn that from a braiding shop. You want to learn how to cut hair, you go learn that from a barber school. It's just a skill.
Yeah.
The only difference is that it's a skill where the amount of time and effort you put in, the remuneration is too big. Are we together? The remuneration is sweet. So let nobody be scared. Please go ahead, we'll be sharing a link. You can book a one-on-one, no commitment appointment. You're not going to pay anything, and we'll be able to call you and talk to you about the different programs. Don't be scared. Okay, the IT industry is not made for people who are the smartest or people who think they know everything. No, the industry has room for everybody, including people like me who are just C students. The only thing I tell people to come with in abundance is hunger. Because when you are hungry, nothing can get in the way. And it's that same mindset Ms. Sally has been highlighting during her very brilliant presentation and responses tonight. Your job is just to find a way to make sure your team gets to its goal. Period. That's it. That's really what a Scrum Master is in a sentence. Your job, the team has committed that they are going to plant 100 palm trees by September 30th, 2022. That's the commitment. Your job as a Scrum Master is to make sure that nothing gets in the way of disturbing the team members to plant 1,000 trees by the end of September. That is your job. So what that also takes, it takes a certain kind of mindset, a willingness to make sure that you don't really accept excuses as a reason for not doing, right?
Right.
So I'm encouraging you, Nouvelle, and anybody else that is on the line listening to us, please don't be scared. That is why we take the time to come talk to you. That's why here at Icon IT, one of our primary goals is to come and break down the industry, because we thought it was an industry only for the smartest.
Right.
Sally felt that way. I felt that way when I joined the industry.
Right.
And when we got in, we got so angry. We said, enough is enough. Something like this is going on, and with people are sitting out there, we have people intelligent, even average people sitting out there who can benefit from this, and they are not taking advantage because they are scared that it's some complicated science-driven, right? And the movies, and of course, all the live shows too on television didn't help us, because it represents IT people as geeks, right? You see this guy sitting with some glasses in the dark basement.
Glasses and a hoodie in the basement.
That is just one role in the IT industry. The IT industry has over 50 roles.
Yeah.
As a Scrum Master, you will never have to be typing computers, building codes. That's not your job. You'll be using computers, of course, but your job is not to do sophisticated stuff like building codes. Your job is just to manage platforms and applications that already exist I
And
am
that have
sure that if I
administration.
train my 16-year-old daughter, she'll be a fantastic Scrum Master.
Oh
Just
yes,
to tell you, it am I right, Miss Sally?
correct.
Just to tell you that it doesn't require some super smarts. So, Nouvelle, anybody listening to us, please don't be scared. Fear is the only thing that stands between you and your destiny. I
Mhm.
can tell you, you can ask people who've been through the program. I will be bringing them up eventually in the course of the year, like Jackie and different people. That when you get into the industry, you get into the role, you start working as a Scrum Master, then you ask yourself, wow, is this it? Is this why they're paying me this much money, for God's sake? But it's an important role because without you organizing the team and helping the team to get to a self-organizing state, as Misali usually puts it in the most appropriate, agile terms, they are not able to achieve that goal. And when they don't achieve that goal, the company suffers. Are we together? Today, if I try to log in on Google, I try to log in on Amazon to buy something, and I'm having problems logging in on Amazon, I just go log in on Walmart and give them my money.
Easy.
Easy. That could have been because the team developing the login credentialing system for Amazon, they are trying to update it, but they don't have a Scrum Master to organize the team to deliver on time, right? So they're suffering now because customers cannot log in, but they're losing business.
Yeah.
That is why Scrum Masters get paid a lot of money because even though they're not the ones coding, but they do very important work. They make sure things get delivered because in companies are a big machine.
Yeah.
Thousands of people, things get lost in the
In
cracks.
translation. Yeah.
Scrum Masters make sure things get delivered. That is very important. So thank you very much for expressing yourself, Nouvelle. I know for a fact there are a lot of people on the line who are appreciative of your comment because you represent a lot of people who are silent about it. But we want to encourage you. Don't be afraid. Get going, get yourself in it, and you will be successful. In fact, some of the most successful Scrum Masters I know are people who came in afraid, like you,
Yeah.
because of the fact that they are afraid, they have a chip on their shoulder.
Yes.
Am I right, Miss Sally?
Yes.
Yes. So their delivery levels, because of that afraid and a little bit of anxiety, they want to make sure they
Deliver.
are always on top of their game and they end up being very excellent.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily a bad thing, Nubel. Okay? It's not necessarily a bad thing. Let me tell you a story here. I was listening, and we're getting to the top of the hour, so we're close to bed. I want to share this experience. I was listening to an interview of the great Etofi, Samuel Etofi, who is the president of Fekafoot in Cameroon, one of the great soccer players from Africa. And the journalist asked him that having been a professional player for the last 15 years, do you still get anxiety? Do you used to get anxious? Do you feel those butterflies in your stomach when you step on the field to play? And before the journalist finished the question, he stood up, hit the table, and said, heck yes, it's never disappeared.
No.
Every single game in my life, as I step on the field, I feel anxious. I feel like I need to poop. I feel some butterflies, and I start playing a few minutes after my body starts settling down. Right? So, in a way, he explained to the journalist that one of the things that drove him a lot in his career to become very excellent is that he always played afraid. Afraid in the sense that not afraid, but he always played like I got to make sure nobody can take my position.
Yeah.
So I got to do everything humanly possible to be excellent. So sometimes fear drives you to do that, and it ends up for good. Well, thank you, Novel, thank you for that. I think there was one final question for us, Miss Sally, before we
Yeah.
call it a day.
From Kelly. Kelly says, "What are some of your facilitation techniques?" So, Kelly, there's a myriad facilitation techniques out there. You will over time figure out what works best for your teams, not necessarily for you. What I have found works for my teams is open-ended questions. So I ask open-ended questions. I don't ask a question that the answer is yes or no. You must say something
Mhm.
after yes or no. And then I always ask I call it the fake feedback loop. So I keep saying, okay, I understand this is the problem. Is that right? And you say yes. I say, so what do you think we can do about it? So I put it back on the team to think about it. Right. That's some. There's others. one of the key things I say is try to make it fun, right? Make it relaxed, make it jovial. It doesn't always have to be good morning, everyone. Welcome to our daily stand-up. Sally, what did you do? Oh, can you no? Make it fun. Talk about, keep it open, and you will get a lot more feedback, and you can tailor those facilities, how you facilitate your meetings, based off of that. Now, with meetings with senior managers and hierarchy is a little different than meetings with just your team, right? You have to be a little bit more prepared. You have to be a bit more professional, for lack of a better word. But again, those same open-ended questions are critical, even in the senior level meetings. In fact, even more so at that level than at your team level.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you much, Sally. And thank you very much for the question. So, dear televiewers, we are coming to the top of the hour here. I'm sorry we had to go a little bit above, but I'm sure you enjoyed the show. I can tell nobody moved, so it was valuable to you. Yes, Delphine, I see your comment. Going through those interviews is really an issue. You don't know what they are looking for. Well, most Scrum Masters, most companies, and most teams are looking for the same thing. When you go through a couple of them, you start noticing a pattern, right? But stick, of course, to the different methods and to the different techniques and to the different notions and concepts of Scrum, especially stories. Miss Sally will tell you this. She's a big proponent of that. Numbers tell, stories sell, right? That's why I think somebody asked a question about metrics, and she stood up immediately and said, no, don't worry about the metrics. Nobody cares about metrics. Stories is what people care about. Are the things going through? Are things happening, right? So Delphine, keep interviewing. The important thing I always advise people, when you interview, record the interview. Go back and listen to it. Find the answers to what you responded wrong. Prepare yourself for the next one. Because most at times, most needs for most companies is about the same. The Scrum Master role is the Scrum Master role. They're not going to create some new work. It's what you do in company A, you most likely will do the same in company B in the context of their industry. Okay. Maybe IT, and maybe, it's a healthcare industry, you move to oil and gas, but it's the same practice, right? Agile is agile, Scrum is Scrum. Absolutely. Right? So by the time you do a couple of them, you'll notice a pattern of certain kind of questions that will be asked differently, but requires the same approach, right? So please keep your foot on the pedal. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, everybody. Any last words from you, Miss Sally, before we call it a night?
So I was just going to go back to Delphine's question about, not question, but comment about interviewing. Delphine, one of the things that I always say is, you are interviewing those companies as much as they are interviewing you, right? And if you start off the interview, make it a conversation, own it, take it away from the person interviewing, and it becomes a conversation, and it becomes a little lighter on your shoulder. You feel less stressed. And also, do not reject any interview. I don't care if the job is in the North Pole. Take it, go to the interview. It affords you practice.
Absolutely.
It's free practice for that job that will finally be yours, right? So it can be trying, it can be difficult, but I promise you that is why we keep talking about grit and chop fire.
Absolutely.
Right. And to all our viewers tonight, thank you so much for having me on the platform, Mr. Gustav, and all the back-end team who are managing this fabulous platform. It was great to be here. If you do need me, you can find me on LinkedIn. Sally Achu on LinkedIn, and you should be fine.
𝐭𝐡𝐢𝐬, they can reach
you can reach out to Icon IT, and Mr. Gustav knows exactly where I am.
Exactly how to get a hold of Sally, all right?
Right.
Sally's a great partner of Icon IT. She's been a benevolent and very, very hard-working contributor to the success of our community. I've trained over 200 people in the Scrum space, helped over 20 of them land jobs, and continues to support and help many more people. Thank you very much, everybody. Again, feel free, if you're watching us, whatever platform you're on, go ahead and subscribe to our communities. Please don't forget, share this link, share this video, Go ahead and get people to watch and get valuable information. I'll tell you something. I noticed that over 95% of the viewership tonight, like most nights, nobody left. Only about 5% of people left and came back. What that tells me is that for 1 hour in this time in our lives, when things are so busy, people have commitments, people have different things distracting them, to spend this amount of time listening to us, it means it is valuable.
Yes.
And don't keep it to yourself. Don't keep it to yourself. Share it with other people. Help other people. Give them this information. Let me tell you, every day in America, over 500,000 IT jobs are open. Over 25,000 Scrum Master positions are open. There are jobs for everybody. Don't be selfish. You
Right.
have your job, I have mine, Miss Sally has hers. We can only do so much. There are just so many jobs, all right? The more people we get working, the better for us, the better lives are going to change, the better communities are going to change, the better future for the children. And of course, the dream of becoming millionaires become real because you see the path to that. So thank you very much for your time. We appreciate you. Go ahead if you would like, fill the form. We'll have a link on the screen. Book a one-on-one appointment. I'll have a chance to talk to you one-on-one and answer some more questions if you do. But if you fill the form with your name, your phone number, your email, what that does is it brings you into our system. And when you are within our system, you get a lot of free information. You'll be getting some free workbooks coming your way. We'll be giving you some free content on how to start your IT career. We'll be giving you some free content on how to seek coaching and get the help you need to be able to transition into the six figures income space, right? Thank you so much. I want to take this moment to thank exceptionally Sally for hopping on the call, and sharing this great knowledge. I mean, I'm an agile practitioner by training too. I'm a scrum master, but I've learned a lot tonight just talking to her and listening to her talk to each and every one of you on the line, right? So have a wonderful night. And before I let you go, let me tell you this, right? I don't know where you're coming from or you're listening to me right now. I don't know what circumstance you've been through in your life. I don't know how you grew up. I don't know what you've been able to deal with thus far. But the one thing I want to tell you today, and I'll always repeat that in your ears, right? You are enough. There is no circumstance that is important or capable enough to be a declaration on your future and your destiny. Go out there, be well, be blessed, and never stop being a blessing to somebody. Have a good night, have a good afternoon, have a good morning, whatever part of the world you are. And until next time, we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.